So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome everyone. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Sorry. Okay, I do need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Announcements for tonight's meeting. As a reminder, there we are. These are the board's meetings held in public. They are not public board meetings. The board is governed by Idaho Code, Title 74 and Title 33, Chapter 5, Idaho Administrative Procedures Act, or IDAPA, and follows district policies. Public input, if anyone has public input, they will be allotted 3 minutes. Any other announcements?
Just due to a lot of hard work, the levy passed last night.
Yes, it did.
So, very excited. I do want to acknowledge some of our community members that put in a huge number of hours to assist in getting word out to our communities. Kate McCarthy, Allie Creamer, Suzanne Gallus, Gina Young, and Allie Van Gundy up north. Those ladies were warriors. They filled in when we were double booked. They were at lots of events, just having conversations with other parents, making sure that people had accurate information. And I feel like the results that we got, with almost 67% of the people who voted saying yes, was due in large part to the huge amount of community support that of people who came out and participated in just sharing the information. So I just want to acknowledge that it really did take a village to get where we got. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for the announcement. Do we have any public input? No public input. Okay. Moving on to the financial report. We have a monthly financial report. Is there any input, comments, or questions from anyone? Thank you for the consistent, good job that you do in clarifying the information on the report. It's appreciated.
Even I can read it.
Yay! All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes of the previous meetings, minutes of subcommittee meetings, HR items, regular and special bills. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes from the previous meetings? Okay. Any input on the subcommittee meetings, which would be just accepted? HR items?
Members, Brooke Cunningham, Director of HR. I just want to clarify, because Trustee Jones pointed out, I have a formatting issue on my HR memo. On the second page and on the third page, the top bar transferred over. So on the second page where you see hire date, those are actually resignations. And same thing on the third page, those are retirements continued. They are not new hires.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Any comments on the regular and special bills?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to old business, we have the superintendent follow-up regarding the SLP hires, I guess.
Do they get a paperwork person also? I just heard that caseload is so high.
Where's Kelsey?
She's
at her camp. In the buildings where we still have a little bit of PSC time. They help any of the special ed case managers. But for the most part, those positions, have been eliminated just due to trying to cut the budget. And so the caseload is high, but they see their kiddos like for 2 20-minute sessions during the week instead of every day, all day
Right.
long. So, Kelsey tries really hard to keep those as equitable as possible.
They're so hard to come by, I just don't wanna get them burned out. Rather have a paper person and losing them again.
We did, when we talked about moving from contracted services to actual people, we anticipated there would be a cost savings. That's what when I talked to Board Chair Thompson. What we didn't factor into that conversation was the contract is only paid for the hours that they're actually working with kids, so they don't get paid during Christmas vacation
Right.
or summer. And our people get paid based on the 190 days of working with kids, across all 12 months. And, so it is actually a little bit more expensive to bring people who have a lot of experience in, but much better for students to have an actual person sitting before them instead of putting them in front of a computer for their instruction.
So the contracted services is in front of a computer, is that what you're saying? Okay,
They're virtual.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 100, just so I just wanna make sure, 'cause I thought I understood that's what you were putting here, the 124,593 additional cost is because we're bringing the bodies one less, but still in the district.
Correct, yes.
Well, it looks like we're still gonna have the same amount, 6.5 and 6.5, but we will have one less,
Right.
virtual and one more physical.
Yes, we
Okay.
thought we were actually going to have 2, but we lost one to Post Falls, one of our people.
So any other further comments?
No, thank you for
No,
the
thank you.
information, that was
Yeah.
so good.
And it was that I wasn't at the last meeting.
Yeah, we just didn't, we had no numbers, we didn't
Yeah,
know.
so that was the information you were looking for?
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
We have a financial follow-up. It's taking a minute to load. Is there any comments, conversations we wanna have on the financial follow-up?
No, I think I answered my questions.
I do have one quick question.
Jessica, I'm CFO.
On the summer program.
Yes.
Is there a reason why the cost went up so significantly from last year to this year? Or from the last time we did it and the time before that we previously did it?
Charboy is here.
Sharp, yeah, Director of Dining Services.
So last year we added, the year before we only had Lakeland Middle School as a non-congregate meal site.
Mhm.
Last year we included Timberlake High School and Athol Elementary as rural non-congregate sites. So that's where children could come and pick up meals
Mhm.
once a day. So that's why the cost went up so much, because we were operating 2 additional sites.
Okay.
We had a ton of participation at Timberlake High School, but in large part due to the summer school activities that were on site there. We did have quite a few community members also participate at that site. All participation was extremely low last year. I think we averaged maybe 2 kids a day there.
Unless I'm reading this incorrectly, it looks like there was just an increase of 12 meals, but there was this increase of about $4,400. That's,
Oh, it's definitely way more meals than that.
oh, okay, it says 97, for lunch and, 72 for breakfast.
So that's for
Average
the
daily.
average daily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, I will say, just like typical, our congregate meal service, which is over at Lakeland Middle School, where you come in and sit down and eat breakfast and lunch. We have a really good turnout in the beginning of summer. And then as soon as summer school's over, we maybe have 10 to 15 kids, so that really messes with the numbers. Also, we have a wrestling camp for one of those weeks, and that really skews our data because we have a ton of kids for that week, and then it really drops off after that. And then we really notice a huge drop off after the 4th of July holiday. There's really just not a lot of participation after that point in time.
Okay.
We're addressing a lot of that with our summer food service program this year. We are ending at the same time as summer school ends.
Okay.
This year, we're also doing a new bulk distribution program at Athol Elementary, where they'll be able to just pick up 7 days worth of meals on a Monday, as a pre-order, so that we're able to, meet the needs of those families in that area, but not have the additional cost of going there every day for just a couple, meals.
Okay.
We are averaging, I think, 45 to 50 meals a day at Timberlake High School and 2 at Athol. But it was taking the truck from here to Athol, they're sitting there for a half an hour, and then they're driving from Athol up to Timberlake. So we're gonna try and reduce the cost of that by providing that bulk distribution instead.
Okay.
And then just to remind the board, this is our last year of offering the summer food service program. We are no longer eligible per census data to offer it. We no longer meet the requirements to provide the program after this summer.
Okay. Great. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the information. Anything else from anyone?
No, but I think just that fact speaks volumes about the change in our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Big changes.
If there's nothing further, we can move on to the facilities update. Any questions or conversations to be had on the update?
Just keep it going.
Yeah, that's great. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Moving on to new business, we have the THS dual credit course. Looks like the NNU would like to provide a political science course. Any comments, questions, or conversations to be had on this course? It is a dual credit course, it's not a course we're offering as part of our curriculum.
This is one Lakeland's doing already though, right?
Not through NNU,
No.
they're doing it through NIC.
And
But I feel like even though the board doesn't get to approve the syllabus or the textbook because it is a college course, I do think the board should be approving the courses that we're allowing to be taught on campus, so that's why I brought it forward.
But NIC brings forward a political science class that's taught at Lakeland, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And why aren't we doing that one?
NIC has, really rigorous, standards for their instructors. One of those is the master's degree, so
Okay.
if, you don't have a master's, NIC won't allow you to teach for them, so, in a lot of, areas, content areas, so.
Gotcha.
NNU is a little bit easier to work with in that sense.
Right, okay.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Certified contracts issue date. So the recommendation is to distribute contracts on June 16th with a return of June 26th.
By law, we
That
have
works
to
for
have them
Brooke.
written, they're signed by July 1, so.
Any further comment or conversation on this?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay. We move to approve the recommendation for the contract dates provided.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Board Chair?
Yes.
As we enter into this part of the agenda, I have, several MOUs, for the board to consider. These are all renewals of MOUs that we've had in the past. I did have the Heritage Health MOU on this agenda when I met with, Board Chair Thompson to plan the agenda. However, the one therapist that they have, that has been working in our buildings is resigning, and they don't have, personnel to provide for us, and so we won't be offering that because we don't have the means to do it, so I did not bring the MOU forward. I removed it from the agenda.
Okay,
Otherwise it would typically be coming.
thank you for that information. So there won't be, that's just the end of that, okay.
So we have the real life MOU. Is there any conversation that needs to be held on the real life MOU?
No.
Either of you? No? I move to approve the real life MOU as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the City of Rathdrum MOU. Now, Lisa, when you asked this to be added to the agenda, it was my understanding that City Council's already signed this?
They signed, so after we met in that joint meeting with the Rathdrum City Council, they took the document that we had talked about without any changes and signed it. And so
Oh.
when I sent the one that we edited based on the conversation we had, Leon never took it to them to sign. And I kept reaching out and asking for the signed copy. I didn't ever get it. So when we met, he said, "Yeah, I didn't take it." So they are under the impression that we've had a signed MOU all year with them. So this is the edited version that this board agreed to last year. Leon is taking it to the City Council next Wednesday for the annual review of it and approval.
Okay.
Well, so will the annual review be for this next year?
Yes. So nothing in it has changed from what we agreed to last year because they didn't sign this version of it, so we're starting fresh. So the 2 years of monitoring our meter and all of that will start with this next school year because it was not signed.
Were we monitoring, were the meters being
The
monitored?
meters
or-
just went in,
Oh,
so
okay.
there wasn't
So it
anything to
wasn't
monitor
being-
anyway.
Okay.
No.
So respectfully, if we approve this, but then they have changes, because I thought when we made the edited corrections that we wanted, the intention was to find out if they were going to accept them. So should we not wait until we find out if the city is going to accept the changes that we expect?
I met with Leon and we read through the whole thing and he felt like it was exactly what they expected it to be. He doesn't anticipate any concern. So you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, we already accepted this last year, right? We already voted on it, so
It's
really-
just a renewal of
okay.
what we
Then I-
thought was in place.
Yeah, then, I mean, I don't think we need to take any action on this till we get the other one back, and then once we have signed, then we sign, and then it'll all be done deal. Cause I mean, we already accepted this language and,
We just annually renew
Right.
it. But, so if you wanna table this and then I can bring the signed version to you, at the next board meeting, cause they will, take action on it next Wednesday, I can do that.
yeah, that would be, my recommendation. I mean, since we already approved this anyways, we just need the signatures. Yeah, so I would move to table this action until we get the signed version.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the Rathdrum Police Department MOU. Any conversation to be had on the Rathdrum MOU? Rathdrum Police Department MOU?
Were there any changes from, the prior year and then us going into next year? Were there any, it's the same?
It's the
Okay.
same. There might be, the cities are on a different budgeting cycle than we are, so there may be a little bit of an increase in, salary costs, but I will bring that to the board once I'm aware of what
Okay.
that is.
So, I guess my question to the board is, do we accept this as it is, and then if there's a change, bring it forward, or just wait till they, cause this is for next school year anyways, right?
Correct.
Typically, we approve it so they know that we're going to pay our portion of that position, so they know they can budget for it. And then I bring the dollar amount with an amendment to it.
Gotcha.
That's what we have done.
So I move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the Kootenai County Sheriff MOU.
I do have, Lieutenant Headland is here, Lieutenant, right? Headland is here. If the board has any questions, I met with them, talked about different ways to try to lower our cost. And ultimately, it's not in their hands to make those decisions, it's the county commissioners, and they have been clear that they're unwilling to consider anything less than the 70%. But Captain Smart provided what's in red. There are some things that we pay for our other two SROs, and our armed guards that they take care of for us here. So so I wanted to provide that for you.
So we pay for the training of SROs from the city?
If
The
it's
county?
for the city.
Oh, for the city.
If it is something that we feel like they need to participate in with the school they serve, we will use our professional development dollars and have them part of that team. Sometimes we split the cost with them. They do their own professional development also, but like the DARE program is a prime example. We didn't pay any of the money for that training, and that, I mean, Brett was gone for a week for that training, and the county covered the entire cost. So there are some benefits there. They also do provide a lot of training for us that they don't charge us for from a safety perspective. The captain is specifically assigning Deputy Wheeler this summer to be the District 1 patrol, so that if he has to interact with students who are making poor choices, he's got a relationship with them. So they are being intentional with how they're supporting our schools.
Yeah, I mean, it's all covered by the levy dollars anyways. It's up to the public whether they want it or not, and they say yes. I think the board in the past, the question, and you know, maybe that's another discussion we have another time, is the discrepancy. I mean, I know there's probably discrepancy in training too, or licensing between our employees and then those that we contract with. The pay, I guess, is, and being that they're all covered by the levy dollars, maybe we should look at that, because you know, if we have a certain amount, we're telling the community this is what it costs. I mean, I don't think that they say, oh, just give it to, you know, the Kootenai County Sheriff, but, you know, we have Rathdrum and Spirit Lake and everybody else involved. I think maybe at some point we could look at those dollars and see, what we could do, or if there's a need, you know, to make sure that the district's employees are also, rewarded for their commitment in their job.
Jessica, I would like confirmation that with the amounts submitted on these MOUs and with our ADSSs that we do have, that the amount that we are levying, that we just went out for, it will cover everything. Given the fact that there's an increase on 2 of the MOUs.
Chair Thompson, yes, we had built in a little bit of a buffer for, that fluctuation in that dollar amount on the levy.
Okay.
So anything that wasn't used for wages would be used for supplies. So we have that buffer in there.
Cool. Okay.
So, but I
And
can
apparently
bring,
some for trainings,
yeah,
et cetera.
yeah, so I can bring, at the next board meeting, just a little follow-up on that specific levy line item, and how it compares to the MOUs to show that there's funding there for it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I need to approve, this SRO MOU with the recommendation of the superintendent as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need any further discussion?
No.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the Spirit Lake Police Department MOU.
Any questions?
This is our grant funded one.
We have 2 more years.
I will move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the 25-26 administrator contracts. I'm just curious, there's no listing of the administrators or salaries or anything of that sort?
I just did my document. I will bring them back for you.
Okay, that would be great.
Yep.
And that's what we typically do anyways, is 2-year contracts for
Yeah.
them, so if they need to know, that's, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't see us deviating.
Yes, and it's just, this is specific to our existing
Yeah.
administrators right now,
Right.
so the new ones we would bring as a 1-year
Sure.
contract.
Yep.
But I would bring, I'll work with Brooke and then bring the names and the current
Salaries?
dollar amounts, yep.
Perfect. So I move that we table the 25-26 administrator contracts until further information is provided.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the 4-day school week. So it is the recommendation of the superintendent for us to move to a 4-day school week. Shall we have some conversation on this? Okay.
I'd like to see, I was talking to a coach at Post Falls and a teacher, and he said that Post Falls has in their board books all the benefits, and they've been keeping track of testing scores and everything and how it's going. So if we could get that, it would be nice to see how it's working out. And
Yeah, their test scores, this is only their 2nd year, and their test scores last year went up dramatically. They outscored us. And then, the scores right now are trickling in, but when I talked to the superintendent, she said that they're continuing to make growth. Dustin Frank at, Lakeland High School, provided this information for me. It came after we posted the agenda, but, of the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, top 16 schools in the state of Idaho with regard to ELA and math ISET scores. The top 2 schools, Malad and Marsing, are on 4-day schedule. The 3rd highest is Eagle High School, they're on a 5-day. McCall Donley is on a hybrid. Mountain View High School's on a 5-day. Moscow's on a 4.75 day, so every once in a while they take a Friday off. Post Falls High School is next with 4-day. And then Lakeside High School and Lakeland High School, is like number 8 or 9 in there, so good job, Lakeland High School. These are just for the 5-day schools, or schools that are similarly sized. Those are both 5-day, but then the next one, Soda Springs, is a 4-day. I don't know that you can say that a 4-day school day is better because you've got 5-day school days where schools are performing. But I don't know that you can necessarily say 5 days are better because we've got the top 2 schools are on a 4-day schedule. And I think it really comes down to how are you using your instructional time, and do you have your instructional calendars aligned to a 4-day school week. You cannot, at the elementary level, we typically do a lot of teaching Monday through Thursday, and then Friday's kind of the assessment day. You can't do that in a 4-day week, so we have to be intentional about the instructional time. So how you assess kids would just have to kind of be built into that instruction. So, but I just wanted to bring that forward. Dustin likes to do research, so he provided that for me. I did hear from, to your point, Dave, some of our high school math teachers, and I think I put this in there for the board's consideration, have some concerns just about, not right now, but in the long term, do our kids start performing poorly or less well on math over time because their math instruction time is reduced by, 10%, 15%. And so I did reach out to Dina Nakarada with Post Falls to ask if their high school teachers were having concerns. They're only in their 2nd year, so at this point they are not. And then I reached out to Jan Baer, and they've been doing it since the recession when people put teachers on furlough days. They just went to a 4-day week. And so she just said they don't know any, they've been doing it for so long, they don't know any different. Their scores are in alignment with everybody else's. So I don't know that they're like outperforming people, but that is a concern that our high school teachers kind of brought forward.
You know, we did the survey for the whole school district. Is there any way we can do a targeted survey for, like, say, 7th grade to kindergarten, those parents? Because those parents are the ones that are gonna need daycare, and there's not a lot of daycare around here.
Yeah, the 33% who participated that said no, a lot of them reached out to me, and that's what they shared was they're concerned about that, which is why we would recommend that we run a base program on Fridays from 6:30 in the morning till 6 at night to provide opportunities for childcare for parents.
And I think that that's not just a passive concern. I think that's a pretty severe concern. Childcare is major.
Which is
that could create, employment issues for people.
And I'm curious why on the high school schedule, 1st period and 6th period are longer than the other periods. Is there reasoning behind that?
First period I think is when they do
Attendance and stuff.
and they do their little TV message, so they built some extra time in so that doesn't take away from their instruction.
Oh, their Tiger TV.
Tiger TV
time,
and Telehawks. And then I think they added a little bit of extra time at the end of the day for kids to put their Chromebooks away if they're not taking them home, and just be intentional about that.
Okay.
For Cunningham, Director of HR, on the high school instructional minutes that you see there, the ones that are presented to you tonight, didn't include a 0 hour in those minutes. We are able to put in 0 hour as long as they have an offer to all the students, a class that all students can attend.
So I understand you, because our listing does include 0 period, but you're saying that hour and 6 minutes is not included in the 100 and...
On that, yeah, it says it's 6
hours.
hours and something a day. It's actually more than that, it's like an hour more, a little over that. So when you're looking at the instructional calendar that's
Okay.
in there,
Okay.
Chair Thompson, can I address the childcare piece?
Sure.
We've worked pretty hand in hand with our base program to make sure that we were able to accommodate as many children as possible, which is why we're hoping to license an area in the high school for that, so that we're able to use a big common space, use one building that will already potentially be in use on Fridays to help save some expenses in the other buildings, so that we're able to serve more children than we could in the elementary setting. Having the two high schools are a good central location for parents that are heading different directions for work potentially. We would be able to utilize some of our staff that by going to a 4-day week might be losing benefits. They would be able to pick up some time in the base program to help keep them whole while being able to serve the children that need care for that time. We're anticipating, based on the size of the space we're hoping to use and get licensed, that we would be able to see upwards of 60 to 75 kids at each location. It could potentially be more. I'm just waiting for the kind of green light to get Panhandle Health in to observe the space and determine what our occupancy could be.
What do we anticipate charging parents?
So it's going to be a little bit more just because we currently with base breakfast and lunch as part of the National School Lunch Program. Because this is a non-school day, we cannot offer a National School Lunch Program on that day. To ensure that children have a meal, we're including the cost of breakfast and lunch in there. So I just need to get some of those numbers from food service to finalize what the number would look like. Obviously, if we have more children, that cost will go down because we just need to essentially break even. We're not looking to profit off of this at all. We're looking to just break even on the cost of operating for those Fridays.
Right, but I know part of the concern is, you know, if parents need childcare, that's a new expense
Right.
that their budget did not account for because we've decided to go to 4 days a week.
And I'm hoping what will happen is if they're used to paying for 5 days for base at the elementary schools, they'll now be paying for potentially 4 days at base at the elementary school. We're trying to keep the cost somewhat similar if we can. It might go up a couple of dollars just to help offset the cost of the food that we're providing to ensure that all children are eating meals and not relying on parents to provide those.
Right, but those parents that don't need base and now have to have base
Right.
because, I mean, that's a new added expense.
I don't disagree with that.
That's
So we're doing our level best to keep it as cost effective as possible. I will say our rates, even for our before and after school childcare rates, are very low compared to this area's average.
Mhm.
So I'm confident that we can continue to meet the family's needs at a reasonable price.
And we're anticipating a conservative cost savings of merely $253,000.
I would let Lisa talk to that. We did some look at the utilities.
Yes, so I think I put in there, but I calculated, I asked Annette for the 23-24 school year, expenses for utilities. And, the full amount was a little over 800,000. I then, and I only did that for the months of August through the end of May, because that's when we typically are in, the buildings. So I calculated that was 181 days, and so I just divided the 870,000 by that to get an average daily cost of 48.11 .99, and then 31 Fridays of non-usage across those months was that 149,000. However, Lakeland High School, Timberlake High School are going to be open, and so I put those numbers back in, so the net utility savings is 122,000. So this is not a significant savings, but it's a place where we can make have some
Well, we're not gonna not have power on those days, so to say you're reducing it by the entire cost, the average daily cost per day, it's,
I didn't know how to pull
Yeah.
out the little yes, you're right. I just tried to get as close as I could. We won't know until if we choose to do it, we won't know what the actual cost is until if we do it.
Right, but that's a pretty expensive way to approach it. If I could ask a couple of questions, with respect to how you calculated this. The way you've done this, you've counted every school is exactly the same size, is that right?
Because
And we know that the two high schools that are gonna be open are, what, 2 to 3 times bigger than the elementary schools?
but we're not running power and electricity in the whole school. It'll be the gym and the commons area. On those Fridays, it's just gonna be for athletics.
Well, what about this other program?
We're hoping to have it in the commons areas. So it's kind of staying in that same
Yeah,
place.
I would submit that, your approach to calculation is faulty, in that respect, because there's no way that you can say every building's the same size, and so I'm gonna pull out these 2, saying they're the same size as the other 9, when that's not true.
Well, I knew doing this is gonna be a rough estimate. The way that the dollars were provided to me was just, this is what we paid Vista for the whole district in August. There was no way for me to pull the individual buildings out, so.
Well, the only way to do it is on a square footage basis, but at any rate, the way you've done the calculation as well doesn't seem to account for the added hours of occupancy at the elementary schools.
So
Correct?
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Although the teachers are still leaving at the same time as what they are leaving now. So there's.
And realistically, though, that's not probably gonna happen.
Right, but even now, we don't have teachers who leave when their contract time is over. They're still staying and working in their buildings.
Yeah, I just have to tell you that I think your savings figure there is off base, and it's probably, I'm gonna say that about half of what you projected, if you really had a good method to calculate it. Right? Yep. The interesting thing is that, the calculations of savings amount to less than 0.5% of our total general fund budget. And it just seems to me this is an extreme method to find that kind of savings. And the whole thing is premised on dollar savings. We've heard no other reason to do this other than the dollar savings. I'd like to share with the board an article that I came across of a study that was done in the state of Oregon. And it's a longitudinal study that was done covering a number of years, and all of the school districts in Oregon that have 4-day school week. And the upstart of the whole article is that student achievement will go down. It doesn't even stay stagnant, it will go down. And I can understand why that might be, because when I looked at the actual instructional time that kids will have on a 4-day week as compared to a 5-day week, they're gonna get fewer hours.
That's a concern for the teachers.
Yeah. And that's a very legitimate concern. The other part of that from a teaching standpoint, I think, as an old ex-teacher, is that it changes the way you structure your instructional time. And that's particularly problematic, I think, in the elementary grades. You're an old first grade teacher. What's the attention span of a first grader?
Well, we're changing to something new every 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, right. So now you got another 15 or 20 minute segment you got to plug into it some way or another. And it doesn't work well over time. So I have serious concerns about the fact that we're making a move which is a monumental change to our entire system in order to try to save a few dollars. And believe me, I'm all for saving dollars, but I am not in favor of sacrificing student achievement in the process. I mean, we worked long and hard, as you all know, to try to improve student achievement. And there's all kinds of evidence out there that it doesn't happen. You know, I appreciate the anecdotal information you provided, but it is anecdotal as compared to empirical.
I'm just looking for ways to put money into the budget for facilities, maintenance of facilities, and then, you know, our curriculum and the things that we need to make sure we're paying for, so.
Well, there might be other benefits to it also that we're not thinking of. I mean, I think there has to be a lot of discussion with the community, but, you know, teacher recruitment, retention. I know I've heard from other school districts that attendance actually improves with 4 days. So, you know, it is fundamentally a change for the community, but if the community wants to do that or wants to try that, I mean, you know, I say, let them have the voice and say, and, you know, if that's where they wanna go, I mean, we could, you know, but I think we have to have more, but I think there are also more benefits. I mean, everything about the world is different now, especially this side of COVID, this side of technology, this side, and a lot of districts have done it, even with all the things of, you know, maybe the added cost, or, you know, what do we do for childcare, or what do, you know, but if it is, improving attendance, because that's one thing we battle continuously, if we could improve attendance, which means that they would actually be at school for the, you know, for near the same amount of hours or whatever. I mean, there's always gonna be a trade-off. I think we should always be looking to see what else we can do to improve the education experience. And then I did have a question, so I'm all for, you know, moving forward and engaging the community more with it. I don't have a problem with 4 days. There's a lot of private schools that only go 4 days. I mean, it's almost the norm, and that, you know, of course, there's smaller schools in some instances that have always operated 4 days a week. The meal programs with the base program, if the parent decided to opt out of the meal program, would that reduce their cost? So if they wanna pack their kiddos lunch, would that be savings to them, or I'm not sure how how you were planning on doing that, or what you guys talked about.
At this point, I don't think it would be an opt-out. Our biggest concern is that we need kids to be able to be fed. And even in our base programs right now, kids are supposed to bring their own snacks, and that's just not happening.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So they're very hungry.
Right.
And we're using our budget to help supplement that as much as we can, but it's not something that we factored into the cost of base, is to provide snacks on a daily basis. So that's why we're kind of leaning in that direction. Obviously, if it doesn't go well, or we don't have if we have a lot of pushback, that's something we need to pull out. Our biggest concern is that if we do have kids, we want to make sure they're fed.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So that's a big thing. I do want to add one more thing to the childcare piece. I know with Post-Fall School District, when they went to the 4-day school week, they offered childcare on Friday. They've seen a reduction in the number of families using it, because as they continue with this, other daycares are opening up more slots on Fridays. You have a lot more in-home care that's available on Fridays, so they're not maybe seeing as much utilization of it as they did initially, because families, they adapt, communities adapt, and they see a need and they need it. So I do think it is something that we definitely need to address, but I do anticipate that that might be something that declines over time.
Yeah. The other question I had, you said about finding hours for employees that would be affected. What departments would that affect if they're, you know,
so
hours would be cut?
Some of our paras will lose, I think, about 2 hours a week. So that's something our transportation department, our bus drivers, cause they're not running routes on that Friday, will lose some hours. So we're looking to help supplement those positions to make sure we can try and keep them whole, if we have the need for that extra staff in the base program. Obviously there's more stringent guidelines for childcare. You don't get to just pass the district background check, you get to pass the health and welfare background check, and you get to get CPR certified and all that fun stuff. So there's a little extra hoops that they have to jump through, but that's our way to hopefully help keep some of those people whole, so that it's not such a big impact for them. But transportation and our classified staff that don't work a full 8-hour day are the ones that I think are our biggest concern.
Or maybe we could find other areas, not everybody wants to work in daycare. And I hate to lose people that we can't keep as it is or get to apply. Maybe we could utilize them, maybe there would be a choice, you know, maybe we have some maintenance things they could help with. Maybe they could help with paperwork for these SLPs, maybe, you know, if we gave a variety instead of just saying, well, you gotta go babysit or forget it. You know, because not everybody's cut out for that, you know, there's just.
And
I
a
will
lot of
say-
our bus drivers are retired.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
I will say, Post Falls did a lot of work to keep people whole. They came up with a lot of things to keep people whole. And then after the first little bit, people were not interested in staying whole anymore because they didn't enjoy the other work that they were doing. Not to say that that would happen here. My bigger concern is that's a lot of additional calendars potentially. That's a lot of additional work for a very small HR team to track all of that. Not that we're not up for the challenge, because we definitely are, but it's just, I want to be mindful. Brooke's over here shaking her head at me because she knows, we know the workload of these additional, because it would be an additional contract for people, because it's a different job, so they would have to do a different timesheet, that kind of stuff. But yes, we're doing our level best to try and make sure that for the people that would like those additional hours, that 2 hours a week, that we're able to provide that in some way, shape, or form.
Well, I'm sure initially, if we went that way, I'm sure initially it would be cumbersome until we work those things out, but maybe in the long run, what would happen is the contract would be changed so that the contract is full encompassing. I mean, if they're already a para, I'm sure they could help with the paperwork, the lingo, they're still gonna be familiar at least with the word. They can help do something, and then the other thing, Wes Bonner also has been doing this, I think, for a couple of years now, I believe.
Wes Bonner and then Kellogg started it this year. Their test scores are up, their attendance is up, so everybody around us who is doing it are.
What is our goal for attendance?
Anything higher than we're at now.
I'd like to get us to 94, 95, we're at 92.
94.6 right now.
We're actually at 92.3 with my last calculation.
The last report.
So that's, I'm looking at the whole average, which is what the state looks at when they reimburse us.
Okay.
That is a snapshot in time average.
Okay.
So that is a 1-day snapshot. That was a great day. But the district as a whole right now, we're looking at 92.3% attendance. I would love to get it up to 94, 95%. Like we discussed previously, for every day that we have the 93% or 92% average, we're losing $15,000 in salary-based apportionment from the state. Money that the state has budgeted to give the school district through to salary-based apportionment that we're losing by not having kids in school. So if we can even increase that a couple percentage, that gives more money into the budget to help.
It's already
operations.
allocated.
It's allocated to us, we just don't get it because we do not have kids attending.
Right, and then the other thing that we forget to factor in is when the attendance is that low, the cost of the teachers and the others that are
It's a sunk
following
cost.
the kids, trying to figure out what do they need, how can we get you here, you know what, so I mean, that itself is an added cost, stress on them, and there's a lot of things other than not being able to see.
What about the kids that don't wanna be home on Fridays? Because they live in
Get a job.
No, they live in a bad,
Right.
they live in a bad home,
Yeah,
and they wanna go to school on Fridays. I mean,
I
it's
would,
something to think about.
I would love to say that I have that perspective, but I do not get to work in the schools, I get to work with numbers, so, I would lean on Lisa for that answer.
Has there been some consideration though, sorry to interrupt, cause I know that the middle schools have started credit recovery programs for their kiddos, but to extending that to being more of a Friday option, so that maybe we're focusing more on academics as opposed to just credit recovery, so that the students that are struggling have the opportunity to actually have one-on-one time without the stress of, you know, daily school involvement. I mean, have we considered anything along those lines?
Well, in the perfect world, and the way I'm thinking about this, if we have the base program running or whatever, it's going to be staffed by people. So if we had kids who needed to have help, there would be people who would be available for that.
The high school, I mean, ideally, maybe we could come up with a program for that. The tricky thing is we don't get any, I hear what you're saying, and I think that I know what you're looking for is a program that if kids do need extra help, they could come in on a Friday. That would be potentially an additional cost to the district just to have staffing for it, that we wouldn't get reimbursed from the state. The state only reimburses attendance if everybody's required to attend. So if we have kids coming in kind of that one-off, that would just be an additional kind of study support that would be outside of the academic calendar.
You eat up that savings in a hurry.
One of the things that, to Trustee Grissom's point she made earlier, that I think is important to at least keep in mind is our kids today are different and they're so active, and I think that especially at the high school level, but even middle school, we have a lot of kids who are missing school on Fridays because they're traveling with a sports team, a basketball team or volleyball team, and they're going out of state over the weekend for a tournament, and they're missing Friday. Sometimes they miss Friday and Monday. But we have a lot more of that than we've ever had, and I don't know if that's a post-COVID thing or just the way the community is kind of changing. But for a lot of parents, when we did the survey, the parents who provided the positive input, that was their biggest motivation, was this is one less day of school my child is missing because these events are important to us too. So there is that side of it.
So you're talking mainly secondary students though?
We have some elementary kids who are participating.
Oh, they're going on basketball tournaments and things like that?
The club sports start at the elementary level, so.
Well, and then just even outside, extracurriculars outside of the school, that there's a lot going on in the communities now, yeah.
Is big, there's a lot.
Horse activities, farm activities, there's all kinds of, yeah, it's grown a lot, but, I mean, I'm open to whatever the community wants. It's their children, their schools, you know, I don't see a problem one way or the other. I think eventually, you know, everything's hard when there's change, but eventually it works out, and, we'll see what they say. That would be my.
Can I ask you a question about the calendars?
Yep.
The regular calendar, such as the one we're on now, we have a 190-day teacher contract.
190 days.
Yeah, and we have 173 instructional days. On the 4-day week thing, if I understood your suggested reporting, there would be 143 days of instructional time. So that's the offset. But the teacher contract is at 169 days.
We're taking advantage of one, well, the teacher contract counts holidays. Obviously the student days don't count those days, but then in addition to that, there's one Friday a month, which I accounted for in the.
But am I understanding correctly that the teacher contract's gonna go from 190 to 169?
Yes.
But they're gonna get the same pay?
That's part of the retention and recruitment.
That's an interesting concept.
Well, I do know that, what happens with those even though students aren't at school, a lot of times those Fridays turn into professional development days, like not every Friday. But I know that is what a lot of that, so the teachers are still, and staff is still showing up on a Friday, a couple Fridays a month or whatever for.
Yeah, that's built in, yeah.
Yeah, so that's,
Well, then you're not saving on electricity and utilities
Well,
on those days.
Right, and I counted those in that number. We have one Friday a month where the staff will come in and it gives us opportunity.
That's
to
part
do-
of the 169.
Gives us opportunity to do district-wide collaboration, which we can't do anymore because we can't get enough of these teachers to make that happen. And it gives us, built-in professional development days.
So would the district roll to having all communication with staff, administrators, teachers, whatnot, to be held on Fridays instead of distracting from the school day?
Yep.
Okay.
And we talked about administrators meeting on Fridays, that the teachers aren't here in this building for our admin meetings instead of doing it during the school day.
How do we explain to the public that we're going from 190 contract days to 169, but we're gonna pay the teachers the same amount of money for working those fewer days? How do we explain that?
What is the amount of hours that are encompassed in the 169 days as opposed to the 190 days? What are we advantaging the teacher that we're now paying for? Because we're not doing 190 days, we're doing 169.
Well, I would, I think the advantage for the teachers is, there are days when, those Fridays, we know teachers are going to be using that time, whether they're doing it at home or at school. They still have work they're doing. Right now they're doing their work, you know, on Saturdays and Sundays, which we don't typically talk about, but teachers do lesson plans on the weekends, they grade papers on the weekends. That work still will happen, but it might happen on Friday instead of on Saturday or Sunday when their families are available. So the advantage to the teacher is there's some flexibility for when they do that work that already takes them away from family time.
and it might be less days, but the hours increase because you're making up for, so that's what I'm saying, it's just a different way of education. It's just that a new thing, not that we have to do it, but I mean, in anything you look at, I mean, we could look at the way we're doing school now and look at the test scores and say, well, that's not working. I mean, or we can look at other schools that are doing it and say, well, there's went really well, and now this report here says, you know, well, all of Oregon test scores went down, 0.033, in their achievement. So I think actually, because yes, there may be some cost savings, but I don't think that it's necessarily from what I'm seeing and reading and hearing, it's not just cost savings, it's a whole myriad of things. It's just a different way of educating, trying to get students here more, trying to, like you're saying, everybody's so busy now, instead of being 5 days, you know, trying to do, you know, by the time Friday comes, whose brain is working anyways? You know, I mean, it's true, we're burnt out, and the kids are tiny, they're burnt out too, they've been doing the same schedule as the adults, so I don't necessarily, you know, one is worse than the other, whatever, it's just a new way of doing things, and whether you wanna see if it fits our community or not, you know, maybe it doesn't, you know, we don't know until we talk to them and they talk to their friends, maybe visit the 2 school districts nearest us and, you know, see what those parents have to say, you know, does it work for them, how does it work for households, because they're just as rural further north, right, if not more. How does it work for them when there's, you know, they have elementary, secondary, and high schoolers, or what, you know, how is the family dynamic? I mean, I think we could do pros and cons all day. I think it's just a way of looking at doing things differently, maybe a fresh set of eyes, I don't know, you know.
Well, I think in trying to balance the point you brought up about the less contract days. We've got 169 contract days, but for elementary, we're asking them to provide 912 hours of instruction, which is more than what they were providing on 190 days. And then for middle school, we're asking them to provide 937 total hours of instruction, which is more than what we were providing on the 190 days. And then with high school, it's 1,013 total instructional hours, but before it was 990, I believe, because I know it's more than what the statute requires.
Yeah.
We've always done more than the statute requires, but to me, even though it's less, they're actually, I think, going to be working more because of the amount of instructional time that we're going to now require.
The numbers you quoted are off of those sample reports?
Well, it's off of, what they provided us
The
for their.
the instructional
Yeah.
minutes.
I don't know how you computed that, honestly. I went back and took a look at the existing, for example, elementary schedule and what your suggested 4-day week schedule looks like. And I found that the instructional time went from for a week, went from 25 hours and 50 minutes down to 23 hours and 20 minutes. So the actual instructional time is going down, not up. So if you take a look at the schedule, the start time in the morning and the end time in the afternoon, and calculate the number of hours in that segment, and then take out the recess time and the lunch time, that leaves you with the instructional hours, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the method I use in doing those calculations. Middle school went from 28 hours and 5 minutes down to 27 hours a week. And the high schools go from 28 hours and 45 minutes down to 27 hours a week. So there's no place where there's an increase that I can see. And that really is the crux of my concern, because we don't know that contact time with teachers and students is what's important. And if you start diminishing that, you're gonna pay a price for it.
One of the things we didn't do in this is build in snow day time, because the plan would be if we had a snow day on Tuesday, we're going to school on Friday.
Right.
So in that respect, we're actually fully capturing a missed day, where before it was, if we went over our minutes, then we added 5 minutes to the day each.
Does that make it easier for you to call it snow day?
No. I hate snow days.
Yes, it does, Bob.
I hate snow days. But in this scenario, we actually fully make up for the missed day by going on Friday. The other thing that the districts around us are seeing is a decrease in staff absenteeism. So to your point, when we have kids in school more regularly because of the structure of the week, and we have teachers in school more regularly, you actually are having more teacher-student time rather than teacher, guest teacher, students missing school. So that's the other side of it. I'm open, obviously, to whatever the board wants to do, and I brought it back because we surveyed the parents, and it definitely got people talking, and there were a lot of people who were excited about it, and then we kind of said we're going to wait until we're done with the levy. But they've been reaching out and asking when is it coming back. So I do think for whatever the board decides to do, I do think it's important that we make a decision so that parents aren't feeling like they're in limbo waiting for something to happen.
So you're proposing that this be done this coming school year?
Unless, yes, I am, just because I feel like we have all the pieces in place. 67% of parents are saying please do this. I'm also open to, if we want to take a year and do some town hall meetings and really get parents I just wanna take a step forward in whatever way we're going, so parents have an idea of what we're doing.
How did Post Falls implement it? How did they approach the community when they decided to do this?
It was through surveys. Dina might have done 1 or 2 town halls with the parents, and theirs was solely for teacher retention. They were looking at ways to stop losing people to Washington. So she did a couple of town hall meetings, and then a lot of just surveying parents, hearing what the questions were, answering the questions, and then going back.
I thought they piloted the 4-day first, and then made a decision if they were gonna roll into it. So like they took 1 year to see what are the effects and cause and effects.
But they took the whole school year before that to survey, do some town halls. Dina got a lot of information from the community, and then they implemented it. So the first the year before they started it, their community was almost exactly what ours is, at about 67% in favor. At the end of the first year, that number for parents went up into the 80s, and this year when she surveyed the parents, it's in the 90s as far as how happy, whether they want to stay or not. So she won't continue to survey moving forward, because people have figured, to Jessica's point, people have figured it out. We also do have families where moms stay home to take care of the kiddos, and the response from those families when we did the survey was, I really would like another day at home with my kiddos. So there's that part too.
What is Coeur d'Alene? Are they still on 5 days, or did they move?
They're at
Or a
4.5.
hybrid.
Oh, okay.
They've got some weird schedule.
Okay.
Sandpoint's at 4.5 days per week.
Well, it's like Coeur d'Alene with their, I apologize, I'm just crazy. Coeur d'Alene with their hybrid model, they're not having great attendance on those Fridays that they are in session, so it's not really working out the way they would hope it would, because why come for part of a day?
I've heard that from other, they get in such a routine that their Friday's free, that when they have to be there, everybody sort of spaces it out.
I believe Post Falls had a similar experience, because they were making up some of the holidays on Fridays, and kids were just not coming on those Fridays too, because they're used to not coming on Fridays. So they changed their schedule this year for the next school year to not do that. They're making it up in other ways.
Well, and that would be my concern with like snow days, moving a snow day to make it up on Friday. And people are planning on not having any obligations on Friday, and then all of a sudden, and they find out on Tuesday, you're not going to be off on
We did
Friday.
build a cushion in for snow days into the calendar. For
We just heard that we didn't.
Oh, I thought.
No,
I apologize.
we didn't, because
We talked about it.
we did not.
So what would we do if we needed to add days?
We have to add at the end of the year, or add Fridays in. And this calendar has us going 1 week later into June than what we currently do.
So I know this is under actions, but there is we're just basically having a discussion, or I didn't see, was there a recommendation to
Yep.
this, or?
On that first page.
Oh, okay.
It's there.
She's recommending we move to a 4-day school week.
Oh, okay.
Would kindergartners still be released earlier than, would we still keep that format?
Our kindergartners currently are on the same schedule as everybody else.
Did we change that?
Since we went to full day, they've always been the same.
I say post it, so.
Okay. And Jessica, would it be difficult to add, to Bob's point, I understand that the attendance that you give us with the yellow highlight and whatnot is for one day, but it is challenging when we've got that evidence and we're saying this is what we have, but then you're coming back saying, no, it's actually less than that. Maybe, can something be added so that we can show the daily snapshot, but this is where we stand, on a,
For the entire
And-
year
yeah,
average.
In
exactly.
anticipation for this request, we've been tracking that, so,
Daily.
Okay.
daily, so I will factor it in and we'll find a way to add it to that report.
Okay.
I do wanna point out on the instructional hours calendar template, that's
Mhm.
with this 4-day-week packet. If you scroll all the way to the bottom and look at line 90, you will see how many instructional hours were over the state requirement.
Yeah, I
And you
saw
will
that.
see that there's, at the lowest, it's 24 hours, so we definitely have time built in for snow days in here, because even at our lowest grade of 24 hours, we could take a snow day and not have to impact the instructional minutes and make it up.
Right, I just when as few days as the kids are going to be at school, I would hate to lose out on those
Instructional days, absolutely, but
So that would take it down to the minimum number of hours required by the state.
if we took 3 snow days,
2, 3.
yes, 3 snow days, which,
It would be less at the middle school.
yeah,
Is that our objective, just to be at minimum standard?
no, absolutely not, but we do have a little cushion in there above what the state requires for instructional time. Obviously, we want as much instructional time as possible. I just was wanting to point that out, but we are over the state required instructional time.
Thank you.
If minimum gets our test scores up, I'm all for that. That's fine with me, although I do think that we need to go back to the community, because when we surveyed them, we were at a different mindset, and the question was, I think I need to hear more from them
Okay.
before I make a decision.
I put it under action because I wasn't quite sure how the
Sure.
board was even feeling about this. So I'm happy to do, we can spend all of next school year, because we won't have a levy, so I can do other town halls. But I do think it's important to hear from people.
Yeah,
And
I do too, I really do, but we all know that when you survey people, how you structure the questions makes all the difference in the response you get.
Yeah.
I just asked one question.
I know.
Are you in favor of this or not?
Yeah, with no caveats. And that is problematic because, as you hear from the discussion, there are all kinds of other ancillary issues that come into play. It's kind of like asking somebody, do you like candy? Oh yeah. Do you like it well enough to feed it to your kids 3 days a week? Maybe not so much.
it was actually quite the question, there was a lot in there. You were very, all caps, no furlough days, no reduction in salary and benefit, but I do think this side of the levy, because it's just some of the wording that we just send it out again.
Okay.
And maybe, what does anybody else think?
Is there a way we can add like a question for the 7th through kindergarten, those parents, like separate?
Yeah, I can
Just
send
to
a
ask them
Skylar
about-
out to different,
Yeah, I just wanna see what their,
schools.
people that have to pay for daycare or whatever, low income families, single parents, stuff
What
like
about
that.
kiddos with special needs that we have to provide services for?
They'd be done in under 4 days.
Kelsey Badger, Federal Programs Director. So we would model similar to what Post Falls and other surrounding districts are doing. The minutes are bi-weekly, and SLP minutes are bi-monthly, and our therapists are monthly, and so those services wouldn't change. We would just adapt to increase the time that they're in the classrooms with us.
I understand that you want to send this out, and I understand that it would cost to do papers, but you only had 1,845 responses to the parents' question. I don't think that's a fair representation of the number of families we have in this district. So we need to figure out a way to try and get as close to a whole response than just those that received their email or received the text message or whatnot.
I would agree with that, and
That's a good point, yeah.
I would also like for us to all agree on questions that are going to be asked before it goes out, cause
Yep.
Okay.
that conversation.
I was gonna say, Bob, when he brought that up about structuring the question, I agree 100%, so maybe he has
Absolutely.
ideas, we could springboard off of each other and, I think the quicker we get it done, the better. I mean, obviously, we're seriously looking at it, but like everybody else, whatever the community says and, you know, I mean, because I don't see a pro or a con either way. I think there may be a little bit better results with kids in education before they certify.
But I do see that, you know, we had a good turnout response from staff
Yeah.
at 5:49, but it would also behoove us to make sure that, you know, it's pretty close to a equal amount.
So how long do we wanna table this out till the next meeting? We have our questions by then, or when is our next meeting? We're almost
Well,
like
I would say that we're
June
working on
7th.
those questions on our next meeting, which would push it, yeah, it's just gonna push everything out further.
Well, and I don't, if we're not feeling like we have enough information, this is not something I feel like we should be rushing necessarily. My recommendation was just based on the input that we have received.
Right.
But, I mean, if we're seriously going to look at it and make sure that we're getting everybody's input, it's going to take us a little bit of time, and so maybe this is a year long. Maybe we follow kind of what Post Falls did, and it's a year-long process, and then we are in a place next spring where we're giving parents a lot of time to know what we're doing and
maybe like a quarterly workshop, cause it is a big change and people are gonna, you know, have to think about things or whatever. And I think we might be able to, I mean, cause the questions for the survey is more of administrative, we could work on it and then bring it to the meeting and say, here's our questions. I mean, as long as it comes back to the meeting.
yeah, cause if we do it that way, I'm just thinking about ways, because I send everything to every single parent, and we just don't get every parent to participate in those things. So, but if we were ready with our questions on the back to school days, to at least start the conversation, at the elementary levels, we get almost 100% of our families coming to those back to school nights. And if we had a paper copy, it would be a good way to kind of get started. Our high schools and our middle schools have back to school nights, but typically at the high school level, it's mostly the kids who are coming and not the parents. So we'll have to figure that part out, but that might be a good way to start. It gives us the summer to kind of plan what questions we want to ask, so we're really thoughtful and intentional.
I'm more comfortable with that than making a definitive decision. I don't have enough information anyways to do that from the people, you know.
Well, I move that we deny the 4-day school week for this year and work on a plan for getting better community feedback over this coming year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
So then, in anticipation that we might be there, we have provided the 5-day school calendar for your consideration for next year.
Looks really good.
It's got 5 days on
5 days.
it. It's pretty much exactly what we had this year.
Does this take into consideration I guess that doesn't have to be on the calendar.
The shortened days for the high school.
Yeah.
Did we put that in there, Brooke?
Oh, are we talking about?
The finals days?
Probably
No, it's not in.
not.
So, good catch, trustee Bain. But those would need to go in there.
So what are there any changes from what we currently have to this year? Is it pretty much
It's pretty much
carbon
the
copy?
same with the exception of, and that's what we did, was we just kind of rolled it over last year's, but the board at the last 2 meetings ago approved the high school's request to change their final
Right.
schedule.
Mhm.
So we would want to reflect that in this calendar, so that would be a change that we would make in January and in June for finals.
So I would move to approve the 25-26 school calendar as presented with the exception of making sure that those high school finals schedules are included.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to LHS boys basketball travel. I'd just like to thank the LHS boys basketball varsity coach, Caleb DeFabius, for planning this out and bringing it to us before it's a last minute crisis.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
What is an what is the Nike extravaganza?
It's a really big basketball tournament. And so they.
Is it all the Disneyland?
No.
It's Santa Ana's Disney.
It's pretty cool. Well, I think
Oh.
it's going to take them a lot of time to raise funds to do it, so which is why they brought it to you now, so that they know it's approved and they can spend the summer working on raising those funds.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Good luck.
Yes. Moving on to the discussion items, we have the self-directed learners.
This is just an annual report for our policy.
Currently we have 10.
And these are counted in our attendance.
Correct, so if they're always counted as residents, unless they're raised.
They're 100%.
Yes.
Mhm.
I will say personally, my daughter is one of the self-directed learners, and it has come in handy. Her having multiple surgeries last year, it's allowed her to go to PT without impacting her attendance, so.
And Jessica looks at every one of those faces, money back in the bank for us.
I try not to.
No pressure for that child.
Any further discussion on the self-directed learners?
No, and I think that's something we're looking at probably maybe increasing to capture some of the other
Yeah.
students.
Yep.
that-
We're looking at revising the policy.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the spring drug testing. Looks like both schools have some agencies.
One of the schools may have to open it to remember which one only tested 25 instead of 50. And that was because they ran the ISAT testing and they didn't want to disrupt that, so they just tested up to 25. Yep.
Alright, any conversations on the drug testing? On that note, for discussion is the June 4th board meeting. That conflicts with
Graduation.
LHS's graduation. So we need to decide if Well, of course we can, Bob, but
We'll
a
just
lot of people don't appreciate that.
conduct our meeting before graduation.
This is true, we could just pull up chairs right after the graduation ceremony.
No.
Oh, it's excited.
At 9 o'clock at night.
But, oh, come on, do you
We'll make
flash
sure
that
we
from?
do double executive sessions.
Oh. Alright, so we have the option of moving the June 4th meeting to June 5th, because this is our special meeting, this is the second meeting we'll hold within the month. We have the option of bumping it to June 11th, or we have the option of just foregoing the June 4th meeting.
The budget hearing is scheduled for June 11th.
Oopsies. So, well, we could piggyback
We
on
could
that,
piggyback.
because we've done that before.
Yeah.
But if we, I mean.
I say we forego it. But if there's anything that needs immediate attention, we can piggyback it onto the budget hearing.
Sounds like a very.
I like that.
I have a John Brown principal recommended hire to bring to you, so if I can do that on the 11th.
Okay.
Did you say that the hearing, the budget hearing was for June 11th?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it.
It's not on the calendar.
Okay. I was missing something.
It wasn't on my calendar either, and then I saw it here, and I'm like, oh, come. Okay, alright, so we're all in agreement to just sort of piggyback the budget hearing if necessary. Well, we would at least hold an executive session.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, are there any other possible action items? Nope, there are not. Future input for future agenda items from anyone? Alright.
I do have a question, these dates to remember, who set did we set that 2:30 in the daytime for IPD in the meeting? I don't remember being that time.
Yeah, we did.
We did? I don't remember that. So I thought I had an objection to that, because we did that last year. And it's hard for the board to participate when most of us work. Okay, sorry. I have to go back and remember that from meeting there.
I think it was in the LA request to be in, trying to be, the date and time was in that.
Oh, is that what it was?
And that was approved, right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh, okay. We need to write it down.
Yeah, yes.
Because I did see the time, and I raised the objection, and it didn't matter. We raised the objection last year too. And my other thing in thinking of that, I know it's already said, but it's just odd, we're doing that in the middle of scheduled workday, so the taxpayers are paying for them to negotiate their contract. I mean, I don't know, I'd have to look at that and see. Anyways. Rabbit trail thought. Go ahead. Alright, Bob, if they're doing it in the middle of the workday, technically.
Or 2:30, they were out, I think.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Elementary's not out yet.
Hmm?
Elementary teachers are not out yet.
No, but the ones, well, I don't know who's on the team, but most of them are, one's come from high school, and those two.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, so is there any future agenda items that are necessary? Okay. On that note, we will go ahead and end the regular session. It is 7:34. I do need a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Bain? Yes. Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Quimby?
Yes.
Vice Chair Grissom?
Yes.
And we will take a 5-minute recess at 7:34. We have come out of executive session. It's 9:54. We do need to have one actionable item. I would like to, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the principalship of the Lakeland Middle School principal, be it Laura Spurway.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need to do a roll call vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries, and on that, we are out. The meeting is adjourned. It's 9:55.